Hey guys, injury lawyer Scott DeSalvo here, and I'm on my way home with a bag full of work to do at home. I'm on Lower Wacker Drive, so the video probably looks pretty dark, and you're probably wondering why I'm wearing sunglasses, but it's because there's like all kinds of openings ahead of me where otherwise I'll get a bunch of glare in my face. So, don't worry, I'm a safe driver. I'm being careful. So in today's video, I guess the topic is, do I ever have to pay my injury lawyer out of my pocket? Does it take money to start my injury case? How much do I pay? When do I pay? You know, what are my financial responsibilities if I hire an injury lawyer for my case? So the cool thing is, this actually came up with a lady who has a car crash case and is very, very nervous about, I think, hiring a lawyer, and, you know, had a million questions for me. And even though my contract is pretty straightforward, she wanted to like double and triple check to make sure that I wasn't going to send her an expensive bill or something like that. So here's the good news. I never send anybody a bill. I've been doing this for, I don't know, in the neighborhood of closing in on 25 years, I think, at this point. And I don't think I have ever asked a client to ever send me a check for anything. My point is, there's two kinds of things that a lawyer is owed when he or she works on your case. The first one is like attorney's fees, right? That actually compensates the lawyer for the work they've done. Now, the type of fee, most lawyers work in a standard way where they get a retainer. So like a divorce lawyer or other lawyers, you know, like a traffic court lawyer, criminal lawyer, divorce lawyer, contract lawyer. Most lawyers work on a contingency, not a contingency, they work on a retainer. That means they tell you, give me $10,000, my hourly rate is $300 an hour. I'm going to work on your case and bill against the $10,000. And, you know, as it gets lower, you might have to give me more money for the retainer if you owe me money, and you won't give me more retainer money than you give me permission to withdraw as your lawyer. That is not how injury cases work. Injury lawyers and workers' comp lawyers work on what is called a contingency fee. Contingency fee just means they only get paid if they win, okay? So the only time an injury lawyer is ever going to get paid on your case is if there's money in the case, right? So there are exceptions. If you fire a lawyer, I guess if it's in the lawyer's contract, he can go to court and ask the court to make you pay him a reasonable hourly rate. I'll be honest, I've never actually heard of that happening, but I guess a lawyer could try it even though nobody does it. The other thing usually what happens is if you fire a lawyer, the lawyer contacts your new lawyer or contacts the insurance company, says we're fired, but we're maintaining a claim on the case because we worked on it and we deserve to be paid for it. But even then, the money comes out of the settlement, not out of your pocket. So the idea is, as far as attorney's fees, the only time I've ever heard of a lawyer taking an injury case, and I think there was only one of these, was when it was a firm I worked at early in my career, before I started my own firm. I worked at a bunch of firms for about 7 or 8 years. Well, not a bunch, like 3 different places, before I started my own law firm. And in one situation, there was a family with a medical malpractice case, tough case, and they wanted somebody to come in and take it to trial. Their old attorney, they got into a fight with, the lawyer withdrew, the court did not want to grant a continuance, and the case was set for trial. So they wanted to pay a lawyer an hourly rate or a lump sum of money to try the case, and I think they ended up finding somebody who went to trial for him and lost, but it might be just that lawyer wanted the fee. I think he probably charged him $10,000 or $20,000 to take the case to trial, and he might have had a deal where he got a percentage of it if he won as well. But, you know, that's usually not how it works. So, I mean, that's the only time I've ever heard of anybody charging somebody upfront for attorney's fees. So that covers one of two, the attorney's fees. The second thing that you might end up having to pay a lawyer out of a settlement is the case costs. So where attorney's fees actually pay the lawyer for the work that they did on your case costs are completely different. In case costs, that's like a police report is $5 or $10. Medical records can be $50, $100 or more per provider to get you the medical records. Filing a lawsuit is $400 or $500. Serving the defendants is, anywhere between $60 and hundreds of dollars per defendant, depending on how you have to serve them. So usually injury lawyers advance case costs, right? So that means the lawyer goes into his bank account, pays for all of the costs in order to push the case forward, and then at the end of the case, the lawyer gets paid back out of what they win for you. So just like you pay them attorney's fees, you got to pay them back the money that they advanced for you by ordering your medical records, paying for depositions, paying for the lawsuit, right? Now, when it comes to case costs, if you come to a lawyer late in the game where the lawyer doesn't have a full opportunity to investigate, a lawyer may ask you to give them money for case costs because you're coming to them at the last minute, and they don't even know. They may not know whether you even have a valid case. And so the lawyer might be like, look, I'll spend time to look at it and evaluate it, and if it's good, I'll proceed, but we need to spend money on the case right now, and I don't want to spend my own money on the case and advance case costs for you without having any chance to investigate, right? So maybe the lawyer doesn't want to spend $1,000 on a lawsuit and serving defendants in the case without having any knowledge of it, but that the amount that they do know about the case is good enough that makes them want to take a risk, right? So there are situations where a lawyer might ask you to pay them case costs up front, but this is what I'm going to tell you. Vast majority of cases, the lawyer advances the case costs and gets paid out at whatever they get you, settlement or verdict, okay? So the Reader's Digest version of this is almost virtually all the time an injury lawyer is going to wait to get paid and only gets paid if they win your case, which means a settlement you accept or a verdict or decision at arbitration or trial. And then as to case costs, vast majority of the time the lawyer advances the case costs. And if you lose the case, I've never gone after anyone and asked them to pay case costs back on a case that went south, even in situations where early in my career a guy literally just blew me off, didn't show up for trial. So I spent like a week preparing for a jury trial, prepped him over the telephone. He swore up and down he wanted to go to trial. Day of trial, no show. Afternoon, no show. Called his mom. His mom said he was home. I guess he lived in the basement or something like that. And he couldn't come to the phone because he didn't feel well. Well, it was intentional, He didn't want to take the settlement money, and he swore up and down he wanted to come to trial, and then he blew it off. So even then I didn't ask for case costs back or anything, right? And I think that that's the case. Now, I have heard of some lawyers where, so why don't lawyers put that in their contract? So in my contract, it says contingency fee. So for attorney's fees, definitely, no fee unless we win. But what about case costs? Well, my contract says you owe me case costs because I have to have it in there. I can't put in there that I will just pay the case costs. That's why I say the lawyer advances case costs, and legally, technically, you're on the hook for them. But like I said, that's another reason why to hire a lawyer who you trust, because I don't do it. I have heard of lawyers asking for case costs if they lose a trial, or if they lose a trial because the client lied or hid something, or did something to really hurt the case, wouldn't take the lawyer's advice. I've also heard of situations like that where there's a good offer on the case and the client won't take the offer. And I think lawyers do that. You know, they'll sometimes say, well, I want my case costs. Well, look, the truth is most people don't have $5,000 or $10,000 sitting around in a bank account where they can just write you a check. Usually lawyers have to wait for the money until the case resolves, or they write it off. They write it off as a business loss. But, you know, that's how it works. So even though it's not in the contract that you don't have to pay the lawyer back, we can't put that in there because otherwise we lose our right to collect the money at the end of the case.